My name is Jayesh Ranjan, and I'm the Principal Secretary for IT and Industries. I'm holding these positions for almost 5.5 years now. So typically, when someone tells you that a government representative will address you, many of you are skeptical. But let me make it known that I know the stuff that I'm talking about. Because, but for anything else, the sheer longevity in this position has given me a very good understanding of not just from an administrative perspective, but also from a technology and technology deployment perspective. But nevertheless, I'm very happy to interact with all of you. And let me congratulate Exito for putting together this very interesting and a very timely and a very topical webinar on a theme which is of tremendous relevance to all of us. So, since we are discussing everything in the context of digital India, let me take you back to 5 years ago when the Digital India program was formally launched by the Prime Minister. And I was present actually at the Vigyan Bhavan in Delhi when this event was launched. And the understanding which the Prime Minister gave, and of course, subsequently, we all have access to documents, etc., that the Digital India will have two components. There'll be one which will be looking after the supply side, meaning how do you create digital infrastructure. So it is very obvious that any digital deployment, any digital solutions will not be possible unless we have a very robust infrastructure to support it. So programs like BharatNet, etc., were introduced, digital kiosks, community service centers. They were introduced as a part of Digital India to take care of the supply side. And in a moment, I'll tell you what we have done in Telangana, because while Digital India and so many others are important national programs, fortunately, the Indian system, the federal structure permits the states to prioritize and take their own individualistic approach towards some of these national programs. And when I share some things about Telangana, you will be amazed that we are far exceeding what the goals and ambitions of the Digital India program were. But nevertheless, just to quickly summarize what Digital India is all about. So one side is about supply. How do you create digital infrastructure right at the grassroots level? The second component, obviously, is the demand component. So I put together this kind of an infrastructure, which today is available in the rural areas also. But are there takers for that infrastructure? So obviously, one very important component is digital literacy. Takers will come only if they understand and value technology. So therefore, there is a very broad-based national digital literacy mission which is going on in all the states, and I'll speak a little bit about that as well. But in my opinion, and in our opinion, the Telangana government's opinion, the bigger buy-in will come if we are able to demonstrate before people, before some of the commonest people, let us say what we traditionally call as the bottom of pyramid, etc., about whose ability to participate in these kind of programs we are always very skeptical about. We will be able to get the buy-in of such people if we are able to demonstrate in front of their eyes that technology works for them. Some of the most pressing problems which they have been facing get a solution through technology. So these are some of the demand side activities of Digital India, that how do you bring the buy-in, how do you educate the people, how do you make them aware, and so on and so forth. So this is Digital India, and all the states, there are 28 states in the country, as all of you would know, and each of the state implements Digital India in their own way. So my knowledge is that there are about 8 to 10 states in our country who have crafted their own versions of Digital India, and then they're doing that in their own unique way. So I again feel very proud to share with you that my state of Telangana is rated very highly. We implement a version which is called Digital Telangana, and the activities that we do in Digital Telangana, they're considered to be very, very kind of outstanding, and the initial results have been very encouraging. So just to give an example, I do not want to elaborate on Digital Telangana, but I want to get into the BFSI related technology innovations and developments. But Digital Telangana, so earlier I mentioned that one of the aims of supply side of Digital India is to create infrastructure. Now, Digital India talks about creating infrastructure till the panchayat level or the village level. But in Telangana, the objective that we are pursuing is that we will provide digital connectivity to every home in the state. And we have almost 8.5 million homes 8.5 million households. And as you would imagine, some of them are in remote areas, some of them are on hilltops, some of them are in forest areas. But regardless of where you are, we are going to deliver a dedicated optic fiber cable broadband connection, broadband line to your home. And earlier, our plan was to deliver it within the next 2 years. But because of this pandemic, we realized the imperative of providing digital connectivity to every home at the quickest possible time. So we have been able to crunch the 2 years time period into 1 year. So within 1 year, in the next, if I'm fortunate enough to be called by Exito again next year, I'll be proudly announcing to you that every home in Telangana is digitally connected. There is a reliable optic fiber cable broadband connection in every home. And obviously that opens up so many things, including digital payments, digital financial transactions, etc., which I'll speak about later. But the point which I'm trying to make is that Digital India has this very important goals of, first of all, providing infrastructure or creating digital infrastructure, and then getting the buy-in of citizens in utilizing that infrastructure. And of course, the citizens includes service providers, private sector, startups, and so on and so forth. Now, in this context of Digital India and state-led programs like Digital Telangana, etc., one very big impetus towards realizing the goals of Digital India came roughly 4 years ago during the demonetization period. As all in roughly around, exactly around 4 years from today, maybe within a week of from today, 4 years ago in November, the nation went for demonetization. And obviously, apart from the fact that large denomination of notes, currencies were withdrawn, there was also a simultaneous, a very big push in ensuring digital payments, digital transactions. And I remember states were also encouraged by the government, the national government that is, to run a campaign of what are called no cash villages. Like every no cash, run this campaign called no cash villages, which means that in that village, all transactions are done digitally. So first of all, you look at all the vendors, all the merchants, and ensure that they have digital means. So in those days, 4 years ago, POS machines were most important tools. So supply POS machines to them, enable UPI, enable QR code based payments and things like that. And then of course, create awareness. So in our state also, many villages were encouraged to go for a no cash village model. And in Telangana, a cluster of villages is called a mandal. In rest of the country, that cluster is called a taluk or a tahsil. We are called a mandal. There are 800 odd mandals in the state. And I remember 4 years ago, roughly around 100 of these mandals, we were able to convert them into a completely cashless mandal. And so that was the very big push, the demonetization phase. And again, of course, subsequently currency notes were reintroduced in some of the villages, some of the erstwhile no cash transaction mandals and villages. Cash has been reintroduced. So now it is a blended model. Some of their transactions happen in cash, some of their transactions happen using digital means. But again, I'm very happy and proud to share with you that there are some mandals and some villages where still, despite the fact that cash is so easily available, people are still using digital means to transact. And let me share something even more interesting and amazing. I'll give you an example of a particular village. The name of the village is Mukhra, Mukhra. It is located in a district called Adilabad, that is towards the north of Hyderabad, the farthest district from Hyderabad in the north. It is closer to Nagpur than it is to Hyderabad. And in this, right now, as you know, this is the festival season going on. We just completed this Dashara and all that. So typically there is a tradition, a age-old Indian tradition, that during festivals you go to some temple. And typically when you go to a temple, you also make some small offering. Maybe you put some 5 rupees or 10 rupees, etc., etc. Now in this particular village, even that 5 rupees, 10 rupees is done digitally. When you go to a temple also, there's a QR code and you scan and you put some 5 rupees, 10 rupees. I mean, they are so steadfast in their loyalty to digital payment that it is really amazing. And there are a couple of other villages also. So despite the easy availability of cash, people are now, those who have realized the benefit and value of digital transaction, they remain very loyal to that mode of transactions. Now, in the current scenario, so as I said, demonetization was one very important milestone, which led to an avalanche of digital payments. Subsequently, cash got introduced. It turned into a blended model. But now we are seeing a resurgence of digital payments, particularly in this COVID period. In fact, in the early days of lockdown, etc., there's also some kind of a misperception that currency notes can carry the COVID virus. They have been touched by so many hands, so it is not safe. But of course, that may or may not be scientifically true, but come what may, it still has created a push towards encouraging more and more people to go digital. So I expect all the participants, domain experts, speakers in this conference basically to look at three aspects. One is that while between 2014-15 and now, the advancement in technology is enormous. In fact, I know of such amazing tools. And in fact, the other day I was dining with someone who has just relocated from the US. He was working in a major pharmaceutical chain as their chief information officer in the US. And he told me that he finds the UPI based payment system in India to be so amazing, so fast, so easy to operate. And he was so impressed, and it made me feel so happy that he appreciates this. Having lived almost for 20, 25 years in the US, being the CIO of one of the leading companies there, he appreciates the UPI. And we all know that there is a lot to appreciate. The way the India stack has been put together, the way the tool has been created in such a versatile manner. You can deploy UPI using multiple modes, and some of the liberal policies of RBI, etc., NPCI. These institutions, these policies, etc., have really been a game changer in many ways. But I would still go ahead and mention this, that we still require more and more development of technologies. There are still many gap areas where we don't have a satisfactory or a user-friendly solution. So we need to continue to invest in improving technologies so that every aspect of digital payment, we are able to adequately provide for it. And I'm happy that this seminar also covers innovation, because as all of us know, lots of innovation is coming from the world of startups. So therefore, fintech startups in particular are also doing amazing work. In fact, whenever we see innovation awards being presented at the state level, at the national level, wherever they are, I notice one thing, that the awards are literally swept away by fintech companies, which also shows that lots of creativity is happening in that sector. Lots of innovation is going on, and obviously the felt need of the society is getting addressed by them, and therefore the levels of recognition is also very strong. The last point which I wanted to make before I leave is that we must also be aware that on the one hand, while we are asking everyone to push the technologies and bring more innovation and encourage more and more digital financial transactions, we must also be very wary about the cyber security risks. In fact, since I am a part of the government, I work in rural areas, I cater to rural citizens as well. I know for sure that many more, in fact, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of more people would like to get on the digital bandwagon, but they are hesitant to do so because of certain security misconceptions. And I remember it is not very long past. In fact, in the early days of lockdown and this pandemic, etc., literally every second day in the newspaper, you would read about some kind of a scam, particularly these KYC scams, which have become very common. People will ask you to share your PIN codes and stuff like that. And I mean, all kinds of horror stories we have come across. So all the more imperative for us, of course, creating awareness is very important, but how do you ensure robustness of your tools and solutions so that there are multiple layers, which typically will get very difficult and very hard to penetrate by any fraudster or any scamster. So while we continue to refine our technologies, etc., we need to work with cybersecurity agencies as well. So I'm confident that the webinar, which has been organized by Exito, many luminaries will be sharing their thoughts, sharing their ideas. But the concluding point, which I would like to mention, is that digital financial payments is one of the most important concepts which will drive digital India. In fact, this will be the trendsetter for other sectors also. As many of you would be aware, one of the most important announcements that our Prime Minister made during his Independence Day speech was the creation of a national digital health identity, a national health digital mission, national digital health identity, and then eventually ensuring that every bit of healthcare related transactions is done digitally. Whatever we have achieved in the digital payments field will definitely become a trendsetter for the health sector, for the education sector, for the skills sector, for the livelihood sector. And as I said, this will give a huge boost to the entire Digital India program. And therefore, what we are going to discuss and deliberate in this webinar holds lots of value, holds lots of relevance. I once again thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity and wish for extremely productive and useful sessions ahead. Thank you very much.